Hello, everybody. Connor Nielsen here with a special live edition of weekly movie reviews. So this is late, and there's definitely a correlation between this being live and this being late. So my car broke, it just wouldn't start, and I've been doing a lot of things to try to fix it, and as a result, I haven't had enough time to watch all these movies immediately, and I also haven't had enough time to write extensively my spoiler-filled thoughts on on all these movies. So I didn't. So last week I said I was going to be talking about 50 Shades Freed, the 1517 to Paris, and Peter Rabbit. I didn't see Peter Rabbit. I have a Letterboxd account. If anyone's actually interested in my thoughts on Peter Rabbit, you can probably see it there eventually. I might check it out. I don't know. And I also have school. I am a full-time school student and I work full-time. So don't really have a whole lot of time to do this. So that's why I'm doing this live. And I might be doing it for the foreseeable future until I get my car fixed. So next 2 or 3 weeks at the longest. I don't know. So today on the docket, I am going to be talking about 50 Shades Freed, and I am going to be talking about the 1517 to Paris. I'm also going to be talking about last weekend's box office results, and that's all there really is. I think that's pretty much my capacity in terms of what the agenda is for today's show. And I think if anybody's actually watching, which let me check. Oh, I got 2 viewers. Nice. If anyone's actually watching this, then I might do a Q&A thing. So after the fact, I'm going to go down and I'm going to put timestamps if you want to jump around in the video. And as always, spoilers for everything moving forward. The first movie I'm going to be talking about is 50 Shades Freed. 50 Shades Freed is the third in the 50 Shades trilogy. It is the big finale. It is the trilogy capper. It's also the fourth 50 Shades movie in 4 years. The first one came out in 2015, 50 Shades of Grey. Fun fact, it opened against Kingsman: The Secret Service. A year later, in 2016, we got the parody by Marlon Wayans, 50 Shades of Black. And then last year we got 50 Shades Darker, which was the sequel to 50 Shades of Grey. And then now we are getting 50 Shades Freed. 50 Shades Freed and 50 Shades Darker were filmed back-to-back, directed by James Foley, a celebrated television director and studio hack. I say that mostly in jest. I've liked some stuff that James Foley has done. I mean, the guy made Glengarry Glen Ross. It's impossible for me to hate James Foley. He also directed an episode of Twin Peaks. And if you know me, I love Twin Peaks. Granted, he directed one of the bad episodes, but it wasn't his fault. Oh, yeah, and I got a heater kicking on behind me, so apologies for the scrappiness of this. One thing that's kind of interesting to note about this whole phenomenon, I don't think there's been a phenomenon that's quite open to this much fanfare and then, like, died out entirely. So in 2015, there was 50 Shades of Grey, and it did very, very well. It was very popular. It opened around Valentine's Day, which was a smart choice. I was working at a theater at the time, and while my theater, it actually sold more tickets to Kingsman that opened that 50 Shades of Grey topped the box office. It was really talked about. There was, and I think most prominently, people were really curious about it. It was a big question mark. People who didn't read the books were like, "Oh, they're making a movie about this. Oh, it's kind of kinky. Ooh, sexy stuff. Aha!" So then they went and saw it. There was a lot of anticipation, and it just wasn't a good movie. And then I think most people just didn't really like it. I'm sure it had its fans. And so then going into 50 Shades of Black, which was the Marlon Wayans parody, it was a parody movie. It was terrible. So I really, really didn't like 50 Shades of Grey. Everyone got angry about it, and myself included. I thought it was terrible, horrible. And then there came a parody, which was somehow worse. Now, the thing about that movie in terms of like the cultural zeitgeist thing was there was like, oh, they're making a parody of 50 Shades of 50 Shades of Grey. Ooh, well, let's go check it out. And then it was terrible, and then no one talked about it. I don't think it did very well at the box office. And And then we get 50 Shades of Darker, which was like the sequel. I don't think it did particularly well. And then there was 50 Shades Freed, which had like no fanfare. Nobody was excited about it. Box office wise, it opened significantly behind 50 Shades Darker. So, let's talk about this 50 Shades Freed. What did I think of this movie? First of all, let's talk about the premise. So, if you recall, if I'm recalling this correctly, at the end of 50 Shades Darker, Jamie Dornan's Christian Grey popped the question to Anastasia Steele, played by Dakota Johnson. He proposed to her as a deflection tactic. He was being kind of his mysterious bad boy self, and she was like, I wanna know you, and then he goes, marry me, and they're like, oh, they're gonna get married, and then now they're married, and so it opens with them getting married, and then they're on their honeymoon, and then if you remember from the last movie, Anastasia Steele's ex-boss, who was sexually harassing her, is now a stalker and is trying to do something mysterious. That's the premise of the movie. So, I don't know. This movie's bad. Like the other two movies, like all of the movies that have the title 50 Shades in them from 2015 till now, it's really bad. But I can't have a righteous fury about this movie. The righteous fury has been extinguished. I don't, like, we all know it's bad, right? Like it's a 50 Shades movie. And I got my notes here, by the way. Handy dandy notes to try to structure this thing. And I don't have a giant mug anymore, but I got a water bottle. And it's insulated too. So the biggest problem here is I don't think there's any passion behind this movie. Now, that first movie, while terrible, is kind of interesting in the sense that Sam Taylor Johnson directed that first movie, and she had a vision, and she tried to do something. And E.L. James and her apparently clashed a lot on what the vision of that movie was supposed to be. With the two later movies, 50 Shades Darker and now this, I think the screenplay was written by E.L. James's husband, and it's just a beat-for-beat translation of the book into a film adaptation. And James Foley is just brought in to just be a janitor and just do what you can, clean it up, and put it out. So all of this is played so straight, and there's no passion behind it. It feels obligatory. The first one made money, so now we got to make these. And it's sterile, and it's boring, and it's hollow, and it's lame, and it's dumb. I said lum. So let's talk about the structure. The entire first act of this movie is really tedious. It pretty much follows this rigid formula of two characters are talking in a reverse shot manner about like a relationship or something, like something about the relationship. Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey have a reverse shot dialogue. And then every once in a while you get an insert shot, but it's mostly just shot, reverse shot, reverse shot. And then it'll end with someone getting a phone call or like, oh, it's that time. We gotta go to this location now. And they'll kind of make their way over to a transportation vehicle, and then hard cut to them in the transportation vehicle or on the transportation vehicle for about 45 to 60 seconds, where it's a commercial for the transportation vehicle with a pop song, accompanied by a pop song. A lot of wide sweeping shots of them on a jet ski as they circle around a yacht, and then hard cut to them in that new location where they're probably just talking some more. And so it's a bit of a lather, rinse, repeat. And then every once in a while you put in a sex scene. And the sex scenes are real quick. I'll get into that later. So James Foley directed this, as I had mentioned. I guess the word that people would probably use to describe him is dependable. He doesn't do anything offensive with the camera. He isn't really breaking any mold. He's just doing the minimal requirement to just put something out. So Sam Taylor Johnson tried to make something with personality and style. It was really kind of, I guess it was supposed to be kind of tongue-in-cheek and sort of knowing and winking about the whole thing they were doing. That movie is just all about the kinky sex, and so they were trying to weave a story in there about the character dynamic reflecting a dominant and a submissive. I think it botched it entirely in the execution of it, but I think that it was at least trying something, and I think that's kind of what made it so monumentally bad, similar to like Batman versus Superman, where it's just somebody's unadulterated, well, not quite. It's trying to be someone's unadulterated vision, and it's just being compromised at all turns. It's probably, I don't know. I would say Suicide Squad, but that's not the case. Maybe a Fantastic Four by Josh Trank. Maybe, I don't know. But with fully sterile, lazy, style-free, and extremely workmanlike direction, we get tedious shot, reverse shot conversations with the occasional detail shot inserted. I probably let you know that. But scenes will probably begin and end with a medium shot, and then the actors just sort of wander into this flat medium shot, and then when they make their way to their cues, shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot. The whole experience has a flat lighting scheme and very flat, even lighting scheme. It looks like television. James Foley makes television, usually directs television shows. I know he did a lot of game of House of Cards, my bad. And so this movie also is really leaning heavily, and the actual story of this is an espionage thriller action movie, sort of. Erotic action espionage thriller. And those sequences are very jarring and woefully out of place, and they also feel like they're television shows. So what we get is somebody will be at a computer or something, and then the camera does one of these as somebody's leaning onto a laptop of some kind, and then somebody's behind them on their shoulder, looking over their shoulder at the laptop, and someone's in their ear like, "Oh my God, this person just broke into this facility. No one knows. We couldn't get their face." And it's like an espionage thriller, and it's all the basics. There's no spark of inspiration. There's no zing. There's nothing. It's real sterile. Take a shot every time I say sterile, because that's kind of the word to use in describing this movie. So the movie wants to be an espionage thriller. The story wants to be an espionage thriller, but also has to be a sex-filled 50 Shades movie, which raises two problems. So the sex scenes are numerous, but extremely brief and awkward. Their presence in this story makes the whole experience feel more like one of those Cinemax After Dark flicks, and the cheap nature of the direction and production only add to the Cinemax vibe that you get from the story. The action scenes are poorly shot because they're usually close quartered and really poorly edited, and a lot of handheld stuff. The editing is trying to get around the fact that they don't have stunt people, or if they do, they don't look anything like Jamie Dornan or Dakota Johnson. And then the second problem is the espionage element is so lame and can only exist if every cop, bodyguard, or judge or security person of any kind is the dumbest person on the planet. Okay. Oh boy. So the smuttiness of the sex scenes are like, they're weird. Like I said, it feels like a Cinemax movie where it's like there's a completely unrelated thing, and then every once in a while there's always little innuendo stuff sort of going on, and then there'll be bursts of like casual nudity and then humping and stuff, and then like some of the stuff gets real kind of silly. I don't want to sound gross, but there's something that happens in one of these things where they Anna and Christian got a thing of Ben and Jerry vanilla ice cream, and then they're kind of eating it off of one another, and they looked visibly uncomfortable doing it, even though they're acting like they're trying to be into it. And like, oh man, I don't even know if I want to go here. I will though. Jamie Dornan's got a bush, and some of the ice cream gets in the bush, and then Dakota Johnson's tongue gets stuck in his bush, and I thought that was hilarious. It's gross, but kind of funny. So everyone is really stupid in this movie. So I don't know who Christian Grey is hiring to be the security detail for his entire family, but this guy must be a... So they're on a vacation, and they're driving, and on their way back, Anastasia Steele's driving the car, and then the security detail's behind them, and then she's like, I want to get away from the security detail. So she revs up the gas and then gets in front of them. And then the people following them don't speed up to follow them. Instead, the stalker guy gets into his SUV and then like maneuvers in between their car and the security car in behind them. And then you never see the security car. It's like they want to be all by themselves. Well, let's just get a sandwich, because there's a wide shot where you see them kind of curving around a mountain, and it comes at the camera, and then you see the stalker car go, and then there's a decent amount of road here, and you never see the security car. It's like they didn't have the budget to have a third car. And then that whole sequence is so dumb that it's poorly. It has a pop song accompanying it that's kind of like a dance groove, but kind of slower, at a slower beats per minute, and I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. Am I supposed to feel on the edge of my seat, excited? I don't know what I'm supposed to feel from any of this. It's so lame. And then in these scenes, you want to have someone in the person's ear being like, okay, you need to route this because this is an espionage. You need to take Route 9 to get onto the bridge, and you got to do this. And I'm sending you a chart that you got to follow in order to do the thing. And then you also have to be like, what are you doing? Oh, and then they do the cool stunt, and the person goes, ooh, you did the stunt. Yeah, you got something like that. That's usually how these things go. This movie tries to blend both of those people into the form of Christian Grey, who's sitting in the passenger seat as she's driving, and then Christian Grey's like, all right, you'll want to take this route. This goes onto the bridge, and then he'll be like, oh wait, and all right, now you want to do, and it's trying to have its cake and eat it too in this form of one character, and it's so inconsistent. Like, I don't know how he's feeling in these scenes, and Jamie Dornan's performance is really bad, and the shot compositions are so mellow and as is, and here's the shot that I don't know what I'm supposed to feel. I don't know if I'm supposed to be on the edge of my seat or not. I'm going to take a drink real quick. So, also, there's another sequence where the stalker guy breaks into their house and holds her at knife point. And then the security people are actually there. And they pull their guns out on the stalker guy, and they're like, hey, we got you. And then they're like, all right, cuff him. And then they both forget their cuffs because this is this movie and everyone's an idiot. And then he gets sent to prison, but then he makes bail, and he's trying to say like, oh, it's and then there's this big drama about whether or not Anna was being truthful about being held hostage at knife point by the stalker guy. You had two security guards as witnesses, right? And she even has the line, it's his word against mine. No, it's not. You have security guards. Like, I don't feel like they know what they were writing from scene to scene. It's like whatever needs to happen to make it the most dramatic, but also not get our characters into too big a peril needs to happen. So the heart of this story is really lingering around Christian Grey as an idea. In this movie, we have the stalker guy. Now, in the last movie, he was just some sexual pervert who was trying to, get with Anna, and she declined him, and then he got fired, and then I think she took his job or something, and now he's stalking her, and you think, oh, he needs her. It's the one thing he can't have. But we need to add an extra fold to it which gets into like some weird comic book stuff of he's not that he wants her. He wants everything Christian Grey has. Because like Christian Grey, he was bounced from house to house, foster house to foster house, had a real rough upbringing. And as the last scene tells us, even lived at one point in the same foster house as Christian Grey and resents that he took his birthright from him. It's the Greys should have picked him. He's the anti-Christian Grey. And it's so dumb. Like, why are we introducing this stuff? This basically makes Anna, who's the main character, it makes her a witness to all of this and not real involved. She's just a pawn in both of their not so much in Christians, but in this evil guy's scheme, and she's just there to try to stand up for herself against, you know, Christians' expectations of her, but then also so there's ideas here about a relationship and like giving yourself up for a relationship and two people sacrificing things in their life to come together to be one. So this doesn't really work because this is the third in a trilogy where this guy is the biggest jerk in the world, and he's unwilling to open up or give anything, and then like until they're married, they're talking about how he doesn't want to have kids and such. And you could probably see why I like to write my reviews now, because like this is like I'm trying to wrap my mind around this and trying to articulate it as I'm thinking about it, and it's real hard. It's real not good. But alas, all this stuff would maybe be a lot more stomachable if everything was not played so straight. There's no winking at the camera. No one's having any fun. It's like all so serious. And the way they talk is like how people in people's sexual fantasies talk. It's so hackneyed and awkward and contrived when you actually hear it happening. Dakota Johnson is so much above this material. So much above this material. And Jamie Dornan has proven himself, I think, to be a pretty decent actor in certain things. I'm probably the only person who saw the movie The Ninth Life of Louis Drax, and I won't call it a good movie, but he's good in it. And specifically, he's good at working with child actors. In that movie particularly, he's got kind of goofy, expressive eyes where he can, like, you know, get on a knee and be like, "Hey, kid, how you doing?" And he has a good rapport with children I've seen in his work. And here, though, he looks visibly upset and unsure of the material and appears to be trying to find his character in real time. Like, as the movie's progressing, he doesn't know how to wrap his mind around this character and his tongue around these words. And he looks so upset. And I felt so bad for him. And his performance is just not good as a result. So that whole point that I'm going back to of people giving things up about themselves to come together to try to talk about or to try to have a relationship, that whole element would be so much better if this were like the first movie and they weren't married, which I think is what happened in the first movie. The problem is this sort of relationship stuff isn't all three of these movies, and it's just kind of brought up so they can check it off their list and then just move on. And so in three movies, we haven't really told much of a story. We've brought up themes, we've brought up ideas, we don't develop them at all, and then by the end we just sort of scrunch the characters together to where they need to be at the end of the story. And it's real not good writing, and it's so workmanly and lazily directed. I'm pretty much done here. I'm just kind of talking in circles. But I will say, the first movie was made in 2015, and the ending of this movie felt like the most 2015 thing I've seen since 2015. So, and two movies came out that were kind of big. Fury 7, the seventh Fast and Furious movie directed by James Wan, was gigantic back when it came out. That was, you know, the big farewell to Paul Walker. And at the end of that movie, they got the clip show, the montage of, hey, remember Paul Walker, remember his character, Brian Mills. Wait, I think that's his name. I can't remember if that's Liam Neeson's character in Taken, but Brian, that guy, He hears like those great moments with him and all the good times he had with all these characters. And aren't you sad? And it's time to reflect. And that was a very 2015 thing, right? Furious 7, Paul Walker's death, saying goodbye to him on screen. And then there's also Mockingjay Part 2, which is like no one's favorite Hunger Games movie, and it didn't do very well at the box office in comparison to all the other ones. And at the end of that movie, they have the part where she's in a meadow and she's talking to her baby, and she's like, someday I'm going to tell you about how your daddy and I got together, and Peeta's somewhere in the background with age makeup or something. This movie does both of those, where Anna's looking at Jamie Dornan playing the piano, and then she just remembers the highlights of any time he wasn't being a jerk to anybody, which is like a collective 2 minutes of screen time. And it's, played to like some pop song is playing while she's remembering all these moments from these movies. It's a big montage, a moment of reflection of, oh, this is the end of a trilogy. And then there's a mid-credit sequence where they got babies, and she's pregnant again, and then they have a kid, and then Jamie Dornan is there like, hey, I'm the dad, and they're like, oh, we're in a meadow, and there's our house, and it was like Mockingjay. So this movie felt like it was reacting to 2015, which everyone sort of moved on from. Jamie Dornan sings Maybe I'm Amazed while he plays the piano, and it was really funny. I think that's all I got to say about 50 Shades Freed. I'm going to give 50 Shades Freed a 2 out of 10. It's real bad, but everyone kind of knew it. I don't have a righteous fury for this movie. It's real bad. Now we're going to talk about the 15-17. You know what? Not just yet. I'm going to see if anyone's actually commenting on this. Oh, wow. Jeffrey Patron and Red Leader Antilles appear to be watching right now. So we got, hiya, Red Leader. Hiya, Jeffrey. Red thinks that the idea of me talking about 50 Shades is hysterical. On my other channel, my conjoined channel with Spencer, my twin brother, we talked about the first one. It wasn't good. So now Jeffrey's going to ask, he's asking about the... Jeffrey Petrone wants to know how something like 50 Shades gets made. Because the first movie was based off of material that was very successful for it had a lot of like digital downloads. And I understand why. Yeah, that really opened up the market for self-publishing, I think. And then it got like a publishing deal where it got into print. And it was just, everyone was like, we know it's kind of a kinky sex thing, but like, what is there to it? They're making a movie out of it? And then everyone wanted to go see it because they were curious, and then it was terrible, and no one wanted to go see the other ones, but they'd already greenlit and were putting into production the last two, and they shot them back to back. That's how something like that gets made. Jeffrey wants to know how the 1517 to Paris is, which is the latest offering from Clint Eastwood, which I will get into right now. I just watched this last night. Jiminy Christmas. I didn't have any notes on this because I don't know how to talk about this movie. Before going into spoilers, I'm just going to say it is the worst movie I've seen this year. I thought it was worse than 50 Shades Freed. I feel horrible saying that because it has such good intentions, and you feel like a jerk not liking it, but it's so not good. I can't believe the guy who made Sully made this movie. Oh my goodness. I'm having a hard time believing, like, okay, I will be surprised if this isn't in my top 10 worst movies of the year come the end of the year. Because it's bad. I am so happy that Black Panther came out, and so me and my brother were the only people in the theaters. I'm so happy about that because this movie was, I hate to admit this, it was laughably bad. I was howling with laughter at a couple of moments, and I feel weird and awkward kind of admitting that because I don't want to be one of those guys that just goes into a movie to be like, oh man, it's so bad, let's laugh at it. Because I mean, that's 75% of the movie online sphere, but I mean, wow, it's not good. So the plot of the 1517 to Paris is a few years ago, there was a train going to Paris from, I believe, Amsterdam. And then a terrorist was on there and had like 300 rounds of ammunition, and then was going to shoot, he was probably going to cause a tragedy on that train. And then a man named Spencer Stone rose to the occasion, and he was part of a U.S. military. He's part of the U.S. Armed Forces. I don't know which specific division he was in. I can't remember. But then he ran into the face of danger and tackled him down, and then his two friends also came on in and helped take him out, and they saved lives, and they saved the day, effectively. It's a great story. I have a lot of respect for these people. They are true heroes. That is what a hero is. It is somebody that saves lives. And this movie is all about that moment, which makes up 10 minutes of a 94-minute film, and that 94 minutes includes the credits. This movie is so padded. It is boring, and on numerous occasions while watching this movie, I turned to my brother and I'm thinking, and I told him, what is happening? Like, what is going on? Why are we watching this? So I'm trying to articulate these things. So this movie can be broken up into three sections. There's them as kids, which includes them going into high school. There is the vacation portion, and then there's the ending with the thing on the train. The film uses the train as a framing device. The framing device of the movie starts with with the terrorist getting on the train, and then he starts shooting people, and then it cuts, and then 25 minutes later we'll cut back to the train, and you'll get about 30 seconds worth of footage, and then it'll cut, and then about 30 minutes later you'll get another clip. And it does this non-linear approach. Oh man, and I also forgot to mention that, I'm so sorry, I'm all over the place with this, but it also, pardon me, it also does the thing where, sorry, not the thing, probably the selling point and the high concept element of this production is that they got the actual people who did this in real life to play themselves in a dramatized narrative about the event. So Spencer Stone plays Spencer Stone. Their black friend plays the black friend. The white friend plays the white friend. That's the high concept element here. These guys are not actors. They're not. They're not actors. And I'm not going to say it's their fault, because it's not. It's not their fault. But they're not actors, and their performances are really bad. It felt like computers talking. There's an idea there of no one's better at playing you than yourself. Yeah, no one's better at playing you than yourself if you're an actor. There's an awkward they're aware that they're acting in front of a camera and stuff, and that makes the whole experience awkward. Where I think a lot of this movie is improvised. A lot of the scenes where they're just talking is improvised. It's like, well, you guys are friends. Just do what you do and just be aware that there's a camera around, and that creates a stiltedness in their performances. Man, I feel bad talking about this movie. I feel like crap. So I'm going to just backtrack some more. I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about them as kids. So Jenna Fisher, who is Pam from The Office, and Judy Greer play their mothers. The mothers are the two white kids. This part is the most like it's the most like a movie, because it's like actors and like sets and actors. Like Buster Bluth is here, Steve Urkel's here, Judy Greer and Pam from The Office are here. I've seen the actor who plays the principal. I've seen him around. Like there's and they're kind of giving laid back performances. Like, hey, I'm just out of school. They kind of got the world weary element to them. But the child performances are really not good. And there's almost a weird, like, creepy factor to it. These kids are like obsessed with war and guns and stuff, and it's sort of, I think the part of it that's weird is we recently had the big tragedy at the school shooting, and this movie's based on real life, and it's got like real people playing themselves, and it has kids obsessed with guns. And in a usual movie, you have stuff like setup and payoff and like visual symbolism and stuff. So when you have like a 3-minute scene of the kids showing another kid like all their guns, it's like, Jesus, this is about the Columbine kids. Like it's so creepy. It's kind of creepy. And there's even the line that says like something along the lines of something about war, man, brothership. And so then they go off into that, but like for a split second, it's like something about war, man. I'm like, oh man, this is getting dark. And I'm laughing at it, and I'm not really creeped out by it. I say creepy kind of hyperbolically, is that it's so good intention. Like it's real earnest, and it's real celebratory of these people and their interests, because it really wants to honor these people. But it's also a dramatic narrative, so that makes stuff like that kind of creepy. Early on, when they're in PE, the two guys like are wearing camo shirts, and everyone else isn't. And I thought, okay, the camo has to mean something. It doesn't. It is real awkward. I don't know why they had camo. And then like later, the black guy's like, man, why are you guys wearing camo? And they're like, what? Camo's cool. As my brother said, that's the payoff. Camo's cool. That's what them wearing camo meant. They thought camo was cool. That's it. There's nothing else to it. The production element is also really bad here. When we jump ahead and they're in high school, and at this point they have like Spencer Stone and what are their faces playing themselves, but they're in high school and they look like they're in their 30s or something, or in like their mid to late 20s. And Spencer Stone, I guess, was a heavy kid, and he had to lose a lot of weight when he wanted to join the armed forces. And then it looks like they just shoved a pillow into his midsection, like under his shirt. And then he sort of like moves his head down. And that dude is jacked. He doesn't look like he's got a lot of weight around his neck, like at all. So there's like, you don't see a progression in like makeup or anything of like him sort of being heavy and then losing the weight. It's like he's heavy, and then in the montage, all of a sudden he's lost all the weight already. So we got that stuff going on. And then we get a Skype call. Now, here's the thing. This is kind of where everything about the bad performances sort of comes to a head. I will grant them this. It looks like they shot the Skype call on webcams, like what I'm talking to you on, and it looks like they used webcam footage, and that was kind of neat. But their performances are like this. It's like this, man. I mean, man, like, you know what I mean, man? Hey, come on, man. Okay. So, man, are we going to, go to Germany? Is that a stop that we want to make? It's like a robot sort of talking. And like whenever they sort of, they don't like kind of move around very well. If they're going to move, they sort of like turn their whole body, and they're not actors. And it's a shame because we're with them for so long and it never feels organic. It almost felt like a David Lynch movie, but as a prank. Like David Lynch has like made the most stilted, awkward thing, but it's supposed to be a comedy. But it's not. It's earnest, and it's so straightforward, and it's played so straight. Then we get to the portion where they go on vacation, and this is where my mind almost had a meltdown because it's no longer funny. The stuff where their kids are funny because it's poorly directed and it's poorly acted, and Jenna Fisher or Judy Greer has the line, "My God is bigger than your statistics." Drop the mic. But then we get the vacation stuff, and it's not funny. It's just real padded out and painful. Now, one of my favorite directors is Richard Linklater. Now, Richard Linklater has mastered the concept of the hangout movie. Movies that are real laid back and casual, and they feel like you're a fly on the wall, like you're observing real people having conversations, and people kind of get all pretentious and talk all kind of about, you know, man, the life, it's just propelling you, man. Like, people talk like that. But it feels so organic and natural. Like, okay, this is just how a real person who was like this would talk. But the thing is, a lot of hard work goes into that sort of stuff. Now, Richard Linklater is a laid-back guy. I've seen, you know, behind-the-scenes footage where he's talking with actors. But that guy, clearly, behind his eyes, you know, he's dialing it. He has a vision that he's trying to bring to life specific things. They wrote the dialogue a specific way. And then they storyboarded it. It's going to look this certain way. And then they went out and they blocked a scene. They rehearsed it. They said, here's where you got to go. This is what you're going to do. You're going to answer the door. The door's going to open. Then you're going to look over. Like, they actually, like, rehearsed it. And then once they shot it all, they put it into the editing bay and they meticulously edited it together to make it to make it look as natural as possible. It's all precise. This is called the filmmaking experience. This movie feels like a slapped together YouTube video. The video quality is surprisingly low. It's not just saying that I think it's low budget. Like, it looks like they're using inferior quality cameras. And so when they're on their vacation, it's like guerrilla style filmmaking. There is a scene that I think encapsulates this whole experience best. And it is where Spencer Stone and his black friend are hanging out with some girl they find. I remember her name's Lisa. And then they go and they buy gelato. And this scene is like something, it kind of reminded me of the flower shop scene from The Room. And I don't say that like casually, like it actually felt like that, where they just sort of wander into this thing and it's a handheld camera and it's just this, like the camera's shaking around and it's so awkward and it's like, hey man, I want to have some of that, and then hey, I want to have some mint chocolate chip, and then the two people behind the stand aren't mic'd at first, but then they're mic'd a little bit later, and as my brother and I had sort of, he had hypothesized maybe that was ADR, and then they're sort of like talking, and then they order gelato, and then they leave, and then that's the scene. Going back to Richard Linklater, the thing that he does so well is that, specifically in his best movie, Boyhood, which I absolutely love, in that movie, he's really playing with the idea of every single moment in your life is a culmination of all the previous moments. It is constantly right now. You are who you are based on the experiences you've had throughout your whole life, and you're always informed now by who you've been your whole life and maybe how events have shaped you. And this movie's trying to do a similar idea, but it's really bad at it. So the casualness of his movies are calculated, but they're so organic, and you don't realize just how real life is so accurately captured in his movies until you get to like the end of a movie, and it's like, oh wow, there's been an actual change, but it's been so gradual, and I wasn't paying enough attention to that, but then it happened, and it's kind of beautiful. When you get stuff like the 1517 to Paris, you get scenes that are improvised scenes, and then you get scenes that are clearly written. They have a dialogue that is written, and it's terrible dialogue. Well, I mean, it's really on the nose. So the scene that encapsulates this is they reconnect with their white friend, and then he comes on in, and they're just like in Amsterdam together partying, I guess. And then when they wake up in the morning, they're all hungover, and they're all, oh man, man, I'm hungover, man. Ooh, I don't feel so good, Oh man, I'm so hungover. And then the improv scene portion of the scene is over, and then they're like, oh man, I need some hangover food, man. And then one of them goes, okay, so we need to talk about Paris. And then the other people are like, yeah, so are we going to go to that? And so, I guess miraculously they're not hungover anymore. We forgot the whole part where they ate food and started to feel a little bit better. We didn't need to pad out that part of it. We didn't need to okay, the improv scene's done. Now we need to get to the dialogue portion of the scene, and then we just move on. So that whole element of you are who you are from moment to moment is so poorly handled. It's a concept being completely botched by the execution of it. And so when you get the part of the movie, which is the best part, which is the moment where they dramatize the terrorist attack, is the best part of the movie. But it could have been great if we didn't not tell, if we actually told a story about a person, if it didn't feel like, well, I felt like Clint Eastwood wanted to make the part that's on the train and then realize, I got to tell a story about these people. Okay. Instead of making it a story about people that ends in an act of courage. They got it backwards. So I feel like I kind of made my point on this movie. It's real awkward and real bad. It's worse than 50 Shades Freed because that movie is really workmanlikely directed and looks flat and made for TV. This movie looks like it's made for YouTube. And even in the scenes that aren't like a guerrilla style filmmaking in Europe, like the parts with their kids, the skies are blown out and the white balance is weird and just basic technical stuff like that. There's a part of my brain in tone and approach to storytelling that does kind of resemble Sully, that does kind of resemble American Sniper, sort of, somewhere deep down in there. But this feels like a devolution. Instead of evolving from like Memento all the way to now you've made Inception, it's like this. Instead of evolving, we've devolved. Clint Eastwood. Clint, I hope your next movie's great. I really liked Sully. American Sniper was all right. This movie's bad. Really bad. But like that movie, 50 Shades Freed, I am going to give this movie, the 1517 to Paris, a 2 out of 10. Now let's talk about the box office. The box office numbers are looking like coming in first place, 50 Shades Freed with $38.5 million. I think this is pretty substantially behind the other 50 Shades movies because nobody cares anymore. It had a budget of 55 though. Who knows? It might make back its production budget in its gross, but it probably that doesn't mean it'll break even. This might flop, at least domestically speaking. Coming in second place is the movie I didn't watch, Peter Rabbit, with $25 million. Ooh boy, I think this made more in its first weekend than Paddington 2, which shame on you if you didn't watch Paddington 2. I haven't seen Peter Rabbit, I can't speak to it, but I highly doubt that talking animal movie is going to be better than Paddington 2. You done should have watched Paddington 2. Paddington 2 is great. Best talking animal movie. Probably of the year. It's probably its only competition is Peter Rabbit, which I haven't seen. And then coming in third was the 1517 to Paris with $12.5 million. Its budget was 30. Wow, I don't even think this will. That cost $30 million. Wow. Whoa. Okay. Wow. I don't think it'll break even here. Yikes. Wow. Whoa. Okay. $30 million. Okay. So dropping from first place down to fourth place is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, with an additional $10 million. It has dropped 8.3% from last week. Oh my goodness. That's unheard of. Usually, things drop by like 50%, 40%, 60%, somewhere in that range. And in its eighth week of release, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle dropped 10%. Sorry, 8.3% with $10 million. This movie is sticking around. People love it. It's getting great word of mouth. It's not that good, but hey, it's all right. It's entertaining. It's kind of fun. It's family entertainment that I guess a lot of people were really attracted to. Good for it. We got dropping to fifth place from fourth place last week is The Greatest Showman with $6.4 million, dropping only 16.3%. It also has great word of mouth. People seem to really be liking it. I didn't, but hey, a lot of people really do. So that's good for it. I think so far that movie's made $146 million domestically on $84 million. Wow. Good on you, Greatest Showman. I think worldwide it's doing really well too. So I think it's broken even and it's turning a profit. Good for it. I guess people turn around on musicals. I guess we can expect to see more musicals, particularly at the end of the year in a winter release schedule. Dropping to sixth place from second place is Maze Runner: The Death Cure with $6.2 million, dropping 40.6. It's only made $49.2 million domestically on that $62 million budget. Telling you, that was the death throes of the YA dystopian anti-grown-up kid power movies. In seventh place, dropping from third place, is Winchester, making $5.2 million, dropping 44%. Budget still hasn't been released on that. I have to guess that'd be somewhere around 10 to 20 million, somewhere in that range. Dropping to eighth place is The Post with $3.6 million, dropping 30.4%. I think now that award season is kind of starting to die down and The Post isn't really getting a whole lot of buzz, it's probably won't be seeing it hang around for much longer. Anyone who's really wanted to see it has probably already seen it. It's made around $72 million domestically on a $50 million budget, so I think it's doing fine, especially when you weigh in international. The Shape of Water stayed in ninth place with $3.1 million. And then rounding out the top 10 was Den of Thieves. Now, ever since Den of Thieves and 12 Strong were released, 12 Strong was like hairs above Den of Thieves, and now Den of Thieves is beat it. Although it's in 10th place. It made just under $3 million. It made $2.999 million. It dropped 34.1%. Yeah, so there you go. That is the weekend box office. I guess for right now, I am going to check out the question. Let's do a Q&A. I got a couple of viewers. Hey, the Real Manos is here. Hello, Real Manos. It's good to see you. Welcome to my show. Manos asks if Winchester is in theaters. It is. I didn't like it, but it's like the only horror movie in theaters, so you might want to check it out. And then The Shape of Water is stunningly great. It is. It is really good. It is one of the 10 best movies of last year, which was a great year for movies. I love The Shape of Water. It's so good. Let's do a Q&A. If anybody has any questions, send them in. And while we wait for that, I will tell you that next time you see me, it'll probably be within a week. I will be talking about Black Panther and the new Aardman Animations movie, Early Man. Aardman Animation they're a British studio that does claymation. They did Wallace and Gromit and such. Also, which came out this last weekend was Samson, which is the PureFlix superhero movie. They turned the story of Samson from the Bible into a superhero movie. I might see it, but that might turn into a Peter Rabbit situation where I don't watch it. So Jeffrey Patron asks if he says Black Panther had a great soundtrack. Agree. I have seen Black Panther. I don't really want to go into my thoughts on it until I do my live stream in a couple of days, probably. But it did. Yeah, the soundtrack was great. I love the Killmonger theme. It was great. Well, okay, if Black Panther pulled in $218 million, do you think what do you think the effects of this will have on the business? So I don't think it actually made 218 domestically. I think at the box office, I think it's scheduled to make 218 by the end of Monday. But now when we get into numbers that high, okay. Domestically, it made $192 million domestically, estimated for this 3-day weekend. And that is insanely good. That broke the February record, which was previously held by Deadpool, which I think had 132. But 4-day weekends are weird, but still $218 million in 4 days is astoundingly excellent. The way I think it's going to affect is February has really kind of come into its own in the last couple of years where you can release a big movie in February. Get Out made bank on like a $4.5 million budget, but also Lego movie, Lego Batman movie, John Wick Chapter 2, and I'm trying to remember, and Deadpool. Like all those movies came out within the last 4 years, and they've all done really good business. So I think Black Panther is if all the others were the signs, this is pretty much I see this as confirmation that February is really going to be a time to open your big tentpole movie, because in this world that is so much fast paced with the internet and movies are in theaters less and less and less, they have less and less time to make their money. You got to open big or like make your money in the first 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. So the world is getting a lot faster paced and whatnot. And so when you have nothing really happening you shouldn't open your movie in January still, because January sucks, but also because all of the awards contenders are going to come out then, and all the buzz is on, who do you think is going to get nominated for Best Picture? Well, let's put out Phantom Thread. Let's put out The Post now. Let's put out all these great movies that were in limited release in December, because in December they're releasing Star Wars, they're releasing Mission Impossible 4, they're releasing Avatar, they're releasing all those movies. And so February is a pretty good time before May. It's not too close to May. March, you can open up like your Beauty and the Beast, your Power Rangers flop, but you can open up something like that. But then February it's really proving to be a time where people are like, okay, saw the Oscar movies, I don't want to watch any more prestige pictures. I want to watch an action movie or kind of a bigger budget type entertainment movie, and Black Panther is like really, really telling of that. Particularly, I think a lot of it has to do with its cultural significance that a lot of people are feeling towards this, and the great marketing and the hype that surrounded this movie is probably also bringing in a lot of people too. Black Panther it is a bit of a special case, but I also think it is the latest in a progression of movies that you can open to great success in February. Let's see if there's any more questions. Nope. Okay, I guess that'll be all for me today. Thank you all for watching this impromptu movie review. Like I said, next time I'm going to talk about Black Panther, my spoilerific thoughts. I'm also going to be talking about Early Man. I might see Samson. I might not. I don't want to. But if I do, I'll review it there. If I don't review it by next time, like I said, I have a Letterboxd account that is letterboxd.com. Letterboxd. It's a movie style a social media platform, and I might review it there. I might just put out a sentence or two on what I thought about it, because I don't care about Samson. Hey, Spencer.
Howdy.
Hey, Spencer. It's my twin brother. Jeffrey wants me to review Samson. I might. I bite my tongue as I say that. So that'll be it. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you to Jeffrey, Red Leader, and Manos for commenting and saying, hey, bye-bye, everybody. See you next time.